there, people of the world, and welcome to today's episode of Coffee Chats with Jax. Something that I've talked about, like, using to cover up other problems that I'm having sometimes is like humor or telling exciting stories or just trying to be exciting, be entertaining. So the thing is, you guys, there's been times in different relationships, different conversations where I get really scared of the silence. And I've actually been called out on that before, where if I'm hanging out with a friend for a longer period of time, there's this gap in the conversation, it makes me really uncomfortable. It makes me kind of scared, am I being exciting enough? Am I being entertaining enough? What's this person thinking? Am I being boring? Am I supposed to talk next? Are they supposed to talk next? It all lies under insecurity and me just wanting people to like me. And when there's silence, I get scared that it's kind of screaming the truth that I just don't think that I'm ready to hear. And this even goes for not nearly as much anymore, but in the past, I used to be really afraid of silence even on my own because I was afraid that it was going to, again, scream the truth that I felt like I wasn't ready to hear yet. If I'm home and there's something on my mind that I don't want to deal with and I don't want to think about and it felt scary and too real and raw, I would drown that out with an episode of Friends or some music or call a friend or something like that because I didn't want to sit alone with the silence. But you guys, I met a new friend last week. This was a friend that I was going to be spending a longer consecutive amount of time with than I guess I normally would with a brand new friend. I was worried about the whole silence thing because I know how I get, I know how I can be when that happens, like I was just telling you about. But I knew that also for 4 days straight, I wasn't going to be able to be super on and super exciting and entertaining the whole entire time. When the silences did come, because that's a natural part of relationship and a natural part of life and growing with people and being around people, something different happened. The silence was still saying what was true, but the truth wasn't so scary for some reason. It was kind of more of a cherished thing, and it felt safe, and it was weird because it's kind of a rare thing. It kind of taught me a lot in my head during this. I couldn't really figure out why I kind of enjoy the silence, actually. For some reason, I don't feel like I have to perform. And so I was having a conversation with a friend, I think last year. I was living in Nashville and I was having a really hard time because, you guys, I want to be real, if it wasn't obvious, my time in Nashville was really hard because my home, quote unquote, just didn't feel safe. So I was having a really hard time with that, and this was kind of the beginning of my search for home, I guess you would say, because this is the first time I was realizing how much I wanted that. And I was asking my friend, who also had her own kind of crazy story with the whole searching for home and moving thing. And I asked her, I was how do you find home? What is home to you? She was Jackie, I find home in people a lot of the time. That was a foreign concept to me back then. Now it feels a little bit more common knowledge to me because I've thought about it so much, because it made such a big impact on me. But at the time I was what? Can you explain that? And she told me, you know that you find home in a person when that person makes you feel safe, makes you feel like you don't have to be on, you don't have to perform. And that person makes you feel loved and like you belong and you feel cared about. And so then she gave me this list of people who made her feel that way. And she was Jackie, if you were just having a major breakdown, meltdown, you were just at your rock bottom and you're sitting in your room on your bed, who would you want to walk through that door and sit on the end of the bed with you and just sit there? That's how you know who home is to you. And so when she was describing these feelings of what these people made her feel and why they made her feel like home, I was thinking I know who my list is, I know who makes me feel that way. And thinking back on that now, I'm I think home, no matter if you find that in a place or a person or I don't know, the feelings you get in your heart are the same. I think anything can make you feel like home. A restaurant makes me feel like home sometimes. And it's because those feelings are all central to it. Where you find it, who you find it, what you find it in, that can change. But the feelings that you get from it, that's what stays the same. And I think that's a really big part of this journey that I'm on right now is looking for what makes me feel like I belong. Looking for what makes me feel like I'm safe, for who I don't have to perform and be on in front of. And when you enter into a physical house, you don't want to perform, you just want to be. And that's what was so special about this time with my friend last week in this silence, because I realized that I was accepted for just me. I wasn't accepted for this outer shell of being the entertainer Jackie, being the trying to be witty, trying to tell exciting stories and ask really good questions, trying to make the other person feel as important as I possibly can. I don't have to be that to be loved. I get to just be me. And me being silent scares me because it takes away the outer shell that I use to put on to try and be accepted by everyone else. And that's why it gets so scary, I think. Because what am I left with? Just me. Not the stories, not the jokes, not the questions, just me. And I think the reason that I felt so safe in the silence with this friend was that I felt accepted as just me. I felt like I didn't have to put on that shell. I got to just be myself. And right then and there, myself wasn't loud and exciting and funny. It was just silent. And that was really special, and I think that that is a really big piece of this whole home thing. You know, like, I'm writing a book about finding home right now, and I talk about this in it, but it's been really interesting because it's a book that I'm like currently in the process of living out. Like when I wrote my first one, it was all stuff that I had gone through, but this is something that I'm in. My friend told me last week, she said, Jackie, there's a difference in vulnerability of when you tell someone about a meltdown that you're having, and then when you have a meltdown with that person there. And you let them see you in it. My friend told me that and I was like, dang, that is huge. Because sometimes there's not a moral at the end of the story yet. But I get to invite you into the process with me. And that's what I want to do with these videos. I just want to invite you into the process, the journey with me, and talk about the truth. That's how you build relationship. And I want to be honest with you so you can be honest with me and honest with each other and just honest with yourself. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you want to get more involved in these conversations, more involved in what it is that I'm doing, go join my Patreon page. That is where I make some exclusive content coming out soon for just the patrons only. That's where you can read the first page of my book, Finding Home. The link to my Patreon page is in the description box below. It would mean the absolute world if you check that out. Or if you want to buy my first book, Be Free, link for that's in the description box below as well. I love you guys and stay tuned. I'm excited to see what this year's gonna look like. I think there's gonna be some really cool new stuff happening. So I will see you next week. Love you.